Good morning, everybody. It is 7:30 on Tuesday, and that means that we are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So however you want to find us, that is great. Today, we are going to be talking all about purpose in our movements, and that is really building on last week's discussion about trust. Grab your cup of coffee. I don't have coffee with me today. If you remember, last week my coffee maker decided to quit on me on this early morning, and the new one has yet to arrive. So I decided not to do instance this morning. So I'm going on water. We hope I don't get too cranky. And feel free to put some comments in the comment link there if you have questions as we go along. If you have comments, if you just want to say hi, I would love to know who's here. That is always a lot of fun. Well, hi, this one says LinkedIn user, which means you are probably not connected to me yet. And so I would love for you to figure out if we have that second degree of connection and send me a little message saying, hey, I was on your live, would love to be connected so that next time your name and face comes up for me. So I'm all about hopping right in usually with things. And hey, good morning, Roxy. My dog is clickety-clacketing coming in to see me this morning. I guess it's time to get her nails cut. So last week, just a tiny review, we went over trust signals, and let me know if those are working well for you, because that is really the building block of so much when it comes to business. The idea of being liked, known, and trusted, whether it's as manager, whether it's as sales, we hear that probably even more for sales teams, but that really is key. Whether somebody feels that they can trust you is when they will give you the information that you need to do the financial work perhaps that you need to do with them. It's when your clients open up to you and to help you do your best work with them. So the trust is super important. If you missed last week's live, you can find it still on my posts and activities. And it's also on YouTube, but a shortened version. I took like the best 5 juicy minute bits from it and distilled it. And that is on my YouTube channel, which is just Moving Image Consulting. If you go there on YouTube, you can find it. And please subscribe to that YouTube channel as well. And that way you always know when something new has posted, because I do a lot of video tips and things on there that you don't necessarily get here because, you know, it's not always the same content. So purpose. Why this word? Well, at the beginning of the year and, you know, during resolution time, a lot of coaches or people out there talk about, you know, what's your word for this year? What's going to be that guiding light, that force to propel you forward? And purpose was the word that kept coming up for me for some reason. And I was really reflecting on it because I was sort of like, well, why purpose and not intention? Because so many people talk about being intentional and what's your intention before going into this meeting and some of those things. So I was thinking about that and I looked up the definition of purpose, and I think that's where the distinction lies for me and why I'm liking this word purpose. So as the noun, the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. I was like, huh. And then when you look at the verb meaning have as one's intention or objective, well, there's that word intention put in with purpose. But what I didn't like is, for me anyway, intention feels a little bit more in the future somehow. It doesn't feel as immediate as purpose. And maybe that comes from the phrases that we use with it. You know, is there any purpose to this? Did you do this on purpose? Move with purpose, right? That word seems to be a little bit more focused and immediate and very much more action oriented to me. You can have an intention in your brain, but you're not necessarily taking action on it. And I want to make sure that we're really in action this year, obviously, because I believe in the body-brain connection as a movement pattern analyst, and that there's going to be this connection between the actions that we take and moving forward, because that action is what creates the body language that you see, right? And so I have chosen this word purpose. And when I drilled down into purpose a little bit more, I was looking at it not from a life coach standpoint, not like finding your purpose. There are a lot of people out there, business coaches and life coaches, that are better at figuring that out for you than I am. Once you have that purpose, then I'm going to look at what that means to your body language. So I was drilling down, I was doing some research, and I found this fantastic study that I'm thrilled to talk to you about. It was done in 2015, and it proves a couple of things that I have been saying for years, and I know from my movement pattern analysis study and the research that's been done in my field, but I hadn't seen it supported by other neuroscientists and people like that. So there's a group, Tipper, Signori, and Grafton, did a study in 2015, and they found that there's an area in our brain, and I totally love this because, as you know, that body-brain connection is so huge for me. There's an area in our brain that is called the action observation network, if you can believe it. I'm all about observation, and we're all about taking action. Well, there's part of the brain they've termed the action observation network. And this is where your visual motor processing takes place. So what you're seeing, visual, right? Visual moto. So the visual taking in the motions that you're seeing. And they figured out or proved that this part of the brain is observing codes, actually, observed actions. You notice they're not saying they're coding observed poses or postures, which really a pose is a posture. So I would say to you that action more important than the pose, which is what I've always been saying. When I teach you, it's about the movement itself. It's not about your postures, where you finish. A posture is going to be where a movement sequence begins or ends. And that isn't as informative to the brain as that movement in between. So I would encourage you to take with a grain of salt all of those blogs and things that have a lot of photos and don't necessarily talk about the movement itself. If they say, oh, look at this picture, this means XYZ. They're closed off to you, they're lying, they're not paying attention, whatever the picture is, because that's ignoring the movement part. That's just the pose. And hey, it's probably a great time to put in here a little plug for Thursday night. Thursday night at 7:30, Moving Image Consulting is collaborating with Gray Zone. And Gray Zone was founded and is run by Tammy Palmer, and she's a fantastic career coach, helping you figure out what it is that you want to do and getting you through that whole resume process and into the interviewing. And we're doing a 1-hour training on interviewing in the age of Zoom, right? So just what we're doing here. How should you be showing up? What is the best way to show up non-verbally? What kinds of questions are they asking these days? All of that really great stuff. And we're going to look at it both from the side of the person who is interviewing, the person on the job search, as well as the manager who's asking those questions. Because I think oftentimes the managers are ignored when it comes to this interview conversation. And so we are going to be talking about both sides. So let me put in the comments the link to this. Let me see if this works because I copied it. There we go. It should work. There it is. All right. So I don't know why. Oh, there we go. So this is the link to the to that training to sign up for this Thursday night at 7:30. Okay, enough of the commercial. We're done with that. Now we're going to move on into the second part of that study that I was talking about that talked about that action observation network. They also did a study, which thrills me, and that's what's getting to purpose. Believe me, we're getting back to that. The second part of their study, they took a dancer and taught that person a short dance sequence, and they showed that sequence to their participants. And they also had a pantomime who did a sequence for those participants. And what they found was the pantomime was much easier for the participants to understand and codify in their brain as to what it meant than the dance. Now, I'm sure this is what they expected because pantomime, of course, is more recognizable sorts of movements. Remember last week we talked about your limbic brain. Now it's filing through all of your experiences, trying to find something that matches what it's seeing. And that's really what this is talking about, because the pantomime was something they didn't really describe in there, at least I don't recall it, what the pantomime, what they were doing. But let's say they were, practicing, pretending like they were eating some soup or something. That's a motion that most people probably would have seen before. So it's easier for their brain to go, oh, soup, versus the interpretive dance about soup. Okay. This brings me to your clarity. Movements that are clear are easier for your observer to take in and to codify, which makes you a better communicator. It's not just going to be the clarity of your words, it's also the clarity of your actions. I'm sure you have all seen individuals who are having a difficult time describing something or remembering something. So I'm thinking, you've seen them and they're thinking and they're like, well, it was kind of like this, or I can't quite recall it, but it's reminded me of a certain actor. I'm trying to think of the name. Do you see how non-focused my movements are when I'm speaking in this way? So what I'm getting at is that clarity of your movement is going to, one, in a lot of ways, clarify some of the language that's coming out of your mouth, believe it or not. Or because you are seeking that clarity, you're also going to be clarifying what's coming out of your mouth because you want to make sure that your body is clear as well. Okay. So, hi, Christine. Nice to see you. Thanks for commenting. So that's really the lesson for today, is this idea of clarity. And it's kind of, for me, it's like that why behind your why. We're really getting even more down to the nitty-gritty of why are you doing this, and why does it matter to you, and what is behind the conversation that we're having. And when you get really clear on those things before the conversation starts, you will notice that it goes more smoothly. You're not stumbling for your words. Probably many of your filler words that you tend to put into things, the ums, the likes, the so's. Mine is so. Every time I go back and watch one of these LinkedIn Lives, I cringe because that's mine and I'm working on it. That way, you will be more clear when you take a moment beforehand. Believe it or not, I write out lots of notes before I do a LinkedIn Live. I don't feel comfortable totally winging it. I do that before I go into meetings with individuals. It's that preparedness part that is my habit and the way that I work. Maybe it's the same for you. If it's not, maybe you need to be making a little outline before you go into meetings so that you are a little bit more clear. And the other thing, we're going to be talking about this in a couple weeks. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to have her on, but these 15 minutes all by myself can be a little bit tiresome, both for me and most likely for you. Therefore, I'm going to be having one of my really good friends on. Her name is Kristen Lamar of Kristen Lamar Inspires. She is an intuitive success advisor. And I tell you, when it comes to clarity, there is nobody better. And she's going to give us some tips for how to become clear, how to use that clarity. I'm more on the second part of it. Once you get clear, what is it? How do you move it? How do you express that and communicate it? Where Kristen is really great at helping her clients become clear on what they want and how to move into meetings with clarity, all of those things. And I'll tell you, my business has really skyrocketed since I started working with her. Total disclosure here, I have worked with her as a coach, and I just think I need to share her with the world. So I'm not sure whether it'll be next week or the following week. I'll make sure that I post in LinkedIn and let you guys know when she will be on. If there are other folks that you think would be great to join in on this conversation and I don't know them, make sure that you send me some messages and let me know. To wrap things up, we're talking about those trust signals. Remember to breathe and to use your upper body. That was last week's. This week, we're talking about clarity. And I've been consciously trying to model that today with the difference between not knowing and drawing things from the ethers. Because if you notice, that's what we do when we aren't clear on something and we're trying to figure something out. You'll see this from students. So the teachers that I work with, we talk about what they're going to be seeing from their students. And oftentimes it's kind of they're trying to pull things out, and so you'll see them moving almost in a circular pattern, trying to grasp the knowledge from the air. And that's because they know it's in there somewhere and they studied it, or their eyes will go up and try to read it off their forehead. When you see that in someone, you might want to ask them some questions to help them get a little bit more clear, or just understand that they don't really get what they're saying right now. And if it's one of your employees and that's a habit of them in the meetings and they're wasting people's time because they're not being clear, then that is something that during the review where you take them aside and say, I'd really like you to come in with some notes next time so that you can be more clear when you're explaining the forward momentum of your team, or whatever it is, because that clarity is really important for everybody to save some time, make more money, and to move ahead. So remember, purpose, a little more actionable for me. So you should have intention, and we should certainly go into everything with intention, but also purposeful, which when you think, what is my purpose with this meeting? What do I want to get out of it? It's going to make things clearer for you, and it's going to come through in your movement. And people like clarity. As we saw from that study, the pantomime higher marks than the dancer from a clarity and understanding standpoint. Have a wonderful day, everybody. If you are not receiving my newsletter and you want this as well, I encourage you to go to my website, which is www.movingimageconsulting.com. Very simple, just Moving Image Consulting, and you'll find me. On there, you get a really great gift. I have a free confidence course, and I believe everybody can use a little bit more confidence in their body language. It is what made Amy Cuddy famous. I'm not necessarily going to tell you to put your hands on your hips and do this, but there are certain tips in there for giving you some more confidence, and it's absolutely free, and then you'll be on my newsletter list. I don't spam you every other day. I'm not one of those. The most I send is weekly. Oftentimes it's not even weekly, but are great tips in there as well. And the videos and things that I always put in my newsletters to help you become a clearer communicator, which is what we all want. So go forth today with purpose, and we'll see you next Tuesday. I haven't figured out what my topic's going to be yet. I guess I should get a little bit further ahead on that. Maybe I should jot that down. But thanks so much for being here. Share this with your friends and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Oh, thank you. Who else is here? I'm sorry. I'll take a quick second to see who else is here. Oh, hi, Laverne. Who else? This is Nancy Lynn. Thanks so much. Go forth with clarity. We're going to have a great day. I love starting at 7:30 in the morning talking to you guys because this really gets my day going. All right, everybody. Let's talk soon if we haven't talked in a while. It'd be fun to actually have a conversation as well. Take care, everybody.